This is Dr. Mahajan from Mahajan Medical Center. Thank you for tuning in to yet another great show from Mahajan Medical Center studios here in Largo, Florida. We got a fantastic guest today, and we're going to introduce him in a minute. But for those of you who are new to our program and don't know me, my name is Dr. Ranjan Mahajan. I'm a internist here in Largo, Florida, and we've been practicing internal medicine and geriatrics for 26 years now. Time flies in Pinellas County. And the organization we're going to talk to today, the Neighborly, they've been here longer than I have been here in Pinellas County. They've been here since 1966. And we got the executive director today to talk to us about the various fantastic programs they have for our community here in Pinellas County. And, you will also get to participate in our drive today. We are very excited. We're going to try to raise $2,000 for David. David is the executive director for Neighborly, which runs the Meals on Wheels in Pinellas County. And, I jump started by giving $1,000 to them today, and I'm hoping to raise another $1,000 from our wonderful community, of our listeners and watchers for our show at Mahajan Medical Center. So we're going to introduce David in a minute. Here is a short intro to Mahajan Medical Center. At Mahajan Medical Center, we care to listen to our patients. Proudly serving the needs of Tampa Bay in primary care for 25 years and counting. All right, we're back. So let's get David Lamaco on our screens. Here we go. Hello, David.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. So tell us a little bit about you, David. I know you're the executive director for Meals on Wheels and the Neighborly centers, and tell us how long you've been with them. Are you originally from Florida? Your background?
Well, it's my background has always been in gerontology. So similar to your interest in working with the geriatric population, that was my start. I went to college for psychology. I got a master's degree in a specialty in gerontology. And then, I had a love I was partially raised by my grandparents, who were phenomenal, and they were such an important part of my life. And then as I kind of developed in my career, I realized how important and how neglected sometimes the older population is. So I've been an interest in my life. I'm a Michigan born and raised, but I've had 2 stints in Florida, a few years, about 20 years ago, back in Naples for a few years. And then I came to Clearwater. I was working in Valparaiso, Indiana at a large behavioral health care center. I was working with a headhunter and said, if you get a job in Clearwater, call me. And that brought me here 10 years ago. I joined Neighborly's team 3 years ago. And ever since then, it's been the greatest challenge, but also the greatest pleasure. And it's one of those things where you say, if you love what you do, you don't have that job. And I love what I do. I love seeing our seniors, whether we're delivering meals to them, working with our volunteers, many of who are seniors, and also our seniors at the daycare. And I love riding the buses with our clients. I've had them sing songs when they were dressed up for Halloween. So it's been a fantastic ride.
Thank you for spending the time. I know you're a busy guy. How many buses I see Neighborly running around?
Well, between buses and cars and driving meals, and whether they're hot meals, whether they're frozen meals, whether they're ours with Neighborly, there's about 50 of them running around Pinellas County. But even most of our volunteers who are delivering Meals on Wheels, they have a Meals on Wheels logo in their window just to let people know. So at any given time, there could be let me think. There's 10 Meals on Wheels sites with at least 10 or 15 volunteers. So at any given time, there's 150 or 200 volunteers every day driving around with a Neighborly Meals on Wheels sign in their window.
Wow, that's a lot of logistical challenge, to manage all those centers, manage all those volunteers, and the seniors. Pinellas County, as you and me both know, is saturated with seniors. Probably, the numbers more than I do, but 85,000, you would say 60 plus seniors in Pinellas County.
We actually, Pinellas County, who are over 60, we have 280,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So
280,000.
and 83,000 live alone. So you think
Also, the
about
83,000 is the population you are targeting at, but the 285 is the total number of 60 plus seniors.
Right. And it is one of the highest. It had been, I don't know if it still is, but it had been one of the highest, the percentage of those over 60 in all of Florida.
Wow. So then, so that's a lot of responsibility for you guys in terms of helping them to stay in place and age in place, right?
Absolutely. And that's our goal. Our goal is to, people's quality of life, to help them stay. Everybody wants to stay in their home. We want to do everything we can to keep them in their home. Nutrition is a huge part of it. And we, for a while, we try to do home chore services, because when I deliver meals, even myself, it breaks my heart. Our leadership team at Neighborly delivers meals and helps out when we can, especially during snowbird season, when a lot of our volunteers head north, we have to fill in. And it breaks my heart when I'll deliver something and a senior will say their house is hot because they don't have air conditioning and they can't open their windows because they don't have screens on them, and a screen is ripped. And I come back with tools and we'll fix something. And just little things like that seem so small to us. It's amazing to me. It's amazing to see that we forget that we can't. Not everybody could climb a ladder and change a light bulb.
Right.
Not everybody could go to the store and buy a light bulb. And so, we help
not only that, there's a pride involved with the seniors too, that they don't want to ask for help,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That causes them not even to ask help from their kids. Yeah. Let's talk about your three big programs your Neighborly does. Number one, which is I'm a big supporter for the last 15, 16 years at Mahajan Medical Center, is Meals on Wheels. And a lot of people don't even know that Neighborly does Meals on Wheels.
Yeah, it is funny. People don't, everybody knows Meals on Wheels, but nobody knows who does Meals on Wheels. Right. And so, we are the Meals on Wheels Pinellas site throughout the county. When COVID hit us, we were delivering just about 1,000 a day. And when COVID hit, that number jumped to close to 2,500 a day.
Wow.
So when we had to grow that quickly, which meant we had to double our volunteers that quickly. So at the time we had 400 or 500, and now we have close to 1,000. So the volunteers are such a big part on Meals on Wheels. And there's so many
the volunteers. I know that's your hot button topic. Okay. Let's just talk about the overall structure. What Neighborly does. I know Meals on Wheels is big program of yours. Then you have the transportation piece. You help seniors go to physician appointments, hospital appointments. Can they go to grocery stores for the transport?
We'll take them to grocery stores. We'll take them to food pantries. We have some neat partnerships where we'll bring 6 or 8 or 10 seniors just from a neighborhood. We'll bring them to a food pantry. Let's say one in Dunedin, for example, or one in Largo. And so they'll get bags of food basically for free, and we'll provide the transportation. So again, to get the food, we'll help them get their food back into their house. But we'll help them we'll work with communities. If a senior living community wanted to go to the Hard Rock Cafe, we could actually work that out with them. And we want to do anything we can to help out. We are actually our transportation helps out with the county as well during the storm. If we had to get seniors out of sketchy circumstances, we provide that transportation to a shelter as well.
And talking about shelters, you just, while we were chatting before the show, you mentioned about when we had Elsa threatening us, how a lot of seniors who are in your network called you guys and wanted some support. How does that work?
Yeah, well, that's unfortunately when something has to shut down because of COVID or because of a hurricane, we still have to try to get meals to folks. So whether we get them to the day before, we get them shelf-stable meals that they could keep and put in a storage room, and there's 5 days of food that somebody could manage with if need be. But we were getting calls from people, which is kind of sad. We were getting calls from people who were looking for just some companionship during that time. They were frightened at the storm, knowing that it was going to come at night, and they were alone home. They possibly losing power in the dark. And, that breaks your heart when you hear that somebody's by themselves. That's back to the 83,000 adults living alone over 60. And I wish I could have 100 people that would have ran out and kept somebody company through the night.
I think more programs we have like this, more outreach we do, and a lot of seniors now coming to Florida from Northeast. They're able-bodied, and they don't have anything else to do, and it'll be great contribution if they can give you a call and say, hey, what can we do?
Yeah. Yep. And when we get around to volunteers, we'll talk about all those kinds of opportunities.
Right. Absolutely. And then the other piece you guys do, which is also a fantastic piece, is the adult daycare programs. And you have about 7 centers, right?
Well, for daycare, we have 3 centers. We have one in Palm Harbor, one in Largo, and one in South St. Pete. We just opened the one in South St. Pete here the 1st of July, or 1st of June, sorry. So having 3 was great because we were having to bus some seniors because we provide transportation to our daycare centers also, which sets us apart from other daycare centers. We have transportation, and we were driving people from St. Pete to Largo, which is almost a 40-minute ride on a bus. And so we're so grateful that we've had it.
That saved you on the fuel costs, on the logistics, plus they're close to, their home. So that's fantastic. For
the seniors, they're in programming for 6 hours. They don't need to be on a bus for 2 more.
Right. All right, let's start from the top, so you're 501c3 organization.
Correct. Yeah, we are nonprofit. So, and then I think 1965 was the Older American Act. That's how most of the Meals on Wheels in the country came through, correct? Correct, and we were one of the first.
Right, so you started in 1966.
Yep.
So I was looking at the data. I said, boy, you started right after that. So how much funding does the federal act provide you guys? 60%, 70% ballpark?
Yeah, I would say they provide us about 80% of our funding.
80%.
Yeah, and again, that funding, the Older Americans Act, pays for transportation, pays for the daycare, and pays for meals, and pays for congregate meals as well. So we have the senior cafes where they could come and have lunch with us every day with seniors. Educational things, how to work a cell phone, how to use computers, how to fitness things, dietary things, all the things we could teach them at, that we could help educate people at, that we do there. So that's what the Older Americans Act funding pays for. We have to come up with 10% match. So for everything we get, we have to come up with something locally, which is donations often, which is help from municipalities when they make contracts with us for certain things. So there's really, that's our need, is to try to generate. So if our total budget is close to $10 million, we need to come up with $1 million annually for all of those things. Even our buses that we get from the Florida Department of Transportation, they pay 90%, but so if it's a $100,000 bus, we have to come up with $10,000.
Oh, so you have to get match for that.
Everything, yes.
Let's talk about, now we talk about money, let's talk about, what's no cost, what's low cost in your different program. Let's start with Meals on Wheels. So go ahead, sorry.
Okay, well, Meals on Wheels, again, so prior to COVID, there was close to 1,200 people on a waiting list for meals, which is a shame. It's a comment on society that folks can't get one meal, one hot meal a day. These are the folks alone, isolated, and they go through a screening process. So they truly are the most in need. They may not have an operating stove or a microwave. They may not have the ability to get to a grocery store. So it's those things that we do a rating system that kind of prioritize the most in need. But that left, pre-COVID, that left 1,300 people on a waiting list. After COVID hit, all of a sudden the government's printing more money, and so there's more money that comes down the pike to take care of more of the seniors and get them off the waiting list. But now, once again, the waiting list is back up to 500. And again, our challenge is, with all the federal rules and regulations to our funding, we get, when you start thinking about what you get per meal and what comes from the government and what you have to buy, it's a challenge.
Yep. Nothing is free, especially when we're chatting, in this time, getting the labor or people to work for is difficult for any
It
organization.
is. It
Mhm.
is. And one of the very important things with Meals on Wheels is, you watch TV and you can't, there's a lot of commercials about food delivery services coming into your house. I have a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, and he gets, I'm not going to name the company, but he gets a food box sent to him once a week, and it's too heavy to bring in the house. So he opens it outside, carries the meals in at a time because he can't lift a 40-pound box. And then his fridge is a wall of these meals. You can't have anything else. What we deliver is a daily hot meal, but also that companionship. We actually put eyes on the senior. We've had stories where some of our volunteers have found a senior, unfortunately, on the floor and have had to call family members and ambulance and things. So that truly, the I've fallen and can't get up, truly happens. And unfortunately, it happens more than we'd like it to. So that's where the need for the daily volunteer, the daily eyes on, hands on kind of approach that our
Let's
volunteers
say,
provide.
someone wants to pay for their meal. They can't, they have the money and they want to use your services. How do that work?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I got off tangent when you asked me the question about
Yeah.
funding before. So part of the funding that comes free is provided by the Area Agency on Aging and Older Americans Act money. We also have private pay. So if somebody wants to buy a meal, I believe it's around $7 a meal right now, which is for a hot delivered meal daily, is a pretty good deal. And some people could get some frozen if they'd like them for the weekend and something to heat up. So people can buy them directly through us, and then that way they don't have to worry about the waiting list either. And then the third thing is, if many of our seniors have a Medicaid or Medicaid or Medicare managed care plan, and as they have that, many of the managed care plans have contracts with Neighborly to provide it to their consumers. So they could go to they could call their managed care company and say, "I'd like these meals," and again, that avoids a waiting list for folks.
Which companies do you have contract with? The Advantage Financial.
I think Humana, Florida Community Care, WellCare. I'm going to be is Staywell might be. I'm trying to think of who so it's pretty much all of them. The five major ones that are here.
Big ones, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's say someone wants to pay for their meal, as you said, $7. Do they get a choice on whatever you cook that day?
Yeah, well, again, we don't prepare the food. We have an outside catering company that makes literally thousands of meals a day. So we're trying to work with them to be able to have that choice. Because we do so many, it's not so much that we can't make we can't get the different meals. It's back to a volunteer. If a volunteer is picking up 10 or 15 stops to drop our meals to drop off at 15 different stops, to make sure that the different meals get to different people is a bit of a challenge, but we're trying to work on that. We're trying to also do more fresh foods. People are very interested in fruits and salads and fresh food. So we're trying as much as we can to do that. And even at our dining sites where the seniors come to, we try to do some of that too, more plated food as opposed to kind of pre-made foods.
Don't you think, the program, what you have with logistics, what you have, need a little bit hand from Silicon Valley?
It would be fabulous to be able to do that. I mean, we're trying to put barcodes on things just to, the data requirements when you deal with the federal government and the state government. If I could get barcodes on things and I could get it cost effectively, everybody could get a badge or something that, scan a card or whatever it would be, that would make life far better for us. It would make it more cost effective for us. There are a lot of those things, but it's a challenge of a nonprofit. Nonprofits have those challenges. They don't have deep pockets. They don't have, I don't have an IT team of 10
I
people.
think that needs to be addressed at a federal level. The Meals on Wheels is a federal program, and they can, have it done federally and then percolate it down. Here's a software, here's Salesforce or something, and I think that's very doable. You look at companies like Amazon, they have complexity time billion for what you have, and they're able to get next day, parts for you from billions of choices. So it's just a matter of, someone big getting interested in your field.
Yeah, and this business, in most business, everything's about connections and who you know. And so, we'll talk about volunteers a little bit later, but
Right.
what you ask about, what could people do to help Neighborly? Use your connections. If you know somebody, if you know Jeff Bezos and he's not flying to space, maybe he could think about sending somebody to a nonprofit taking care of seniors. Maybe
Right.
we could buy a $7 meal, or a little bit more. Maybe we could get a nicer meal for somebody than some of the things that sometimes we have to do just from a cost standpoint.
By the way, I heard his ex-wife is more charitable, so he may be able to get more money from her.
I thought they're divorced.
No, she's been fantastic, what I read in COVID era. So, worth a try if you can have your outreach people reach her, and maybe they can connect you. Not just the monetary aspect, but the logistic aspect. I think
Oh, absolutely.
it's ripe for upgrade, because in this day and age, you should not be worried about with the GPS, with the barcode technology. You should be flying the meals through without thinking, with robotics and AI and.
Yeah, but then the only thing that you miss with that is the human interaction.
Oh, no, I'm not saying the robot should deliver. I'm just saying, they should help, but the humans should deliver. But let's talk about your, we talked about Meals on Wheels a little bit. Let's talk about your other program, the daycare centers, or senior centers.
Okay.
So you said you have 3. So walk us through what is a typical center, senior profile is, and you talked about respite a little bit. So let us walk through that.
Okay. Well, a typical individual who comes to our daycare centers is somebody who struggles to be at home, especially alone. So they might have some dementia. They might have some cognitive disorders. They might have had a head injury of some type. It could be a number of things that they're doing, but it's really a safe place that they could come. What separates us apart from other daycare centers is we're the only ones who provide transportation. So we will, if somebody wants that, we'll pick up the loved one. And when we provide transportation, even our drivers are background screened. They're trained in geriatrics and working with older adults. They know particular people. It's not like getting a different Uber driver every day. So they're gonna know very well their driver that they've had for years. The driver will bring them. They'll come in for a small light breakfast, something to eat in the morning. There'll be activities throughout the day, some cognitive activities just to keep their minds active. They might do fun things and play bingo. They might be watching movies. They might have different experts come in and help with training on technology and use of a cell phone or use of a computer, or how to work your VCR. I sound like Joe Biden right there. So a lot of those other activities are what that we'll provide to the senior, and it keeps them challenged. And they're going to have lunch, and then they're going to have some physical fitness activities, and it might just be beach volleyball, or it might be something beach volleyball. I'm sorry, it might be chair volleyball. They might just be sitting, playing over a net, and hitting a ball back and forth. But it's really just trying to keep them active and trying to have them do something different. And they get to know each other. They get to know the staff. They get to know one another. We have by the regulations of our funding source, we have a ratio of 6. We can only have 6 consumers to 1 staff. So we can't. Again, it's not like a setting where there's 100 people there and only a few people checking on them. And we typically have about we like to have around 30 people there, because that's a good size that we could manage, and it's a good size that it's not overwhelming to the seniors themselves.
So how is the funding? Does the individual families have to pay for that, and some come from the federal government? How does it work?
Similar to Meals on Wheels, Older Americans Act does pay. We have some funding that does come along for adult daycare. Also, that's a waiting list, so that's limited funding. So we run out of funds most years on that. Again, because of last year with COVID hitting, and we had to close daycare for a few months. We were able to carry forward some of those funds so we can get more numbers of those people. We know there's a lot more need out there in the community. We were talking about also respite care. And respite care is people think about daycare and they think it's more of a...
Hold your thought there, David. Let me talk
Okay.
to a couple of folks who tune in, and let's see if they can contribute to our cause, our drive today. I got a good friend of mine, Dr. Chaudhary, is tuning in. Hey, Umesh, thank you for tuning in. We talking to David from Neighborly. He's the executive director, and I threw a challenge to our community to raise $2,000, and I jump started by giving $1,000. So see if you can donate to a great cause to get a hot meal to our seniors. And I appreciate you tuning in, Umesh. He's a big, great guy. He does fantastic work for a lot of charities, and we'll hit him for donating to Meals on Wheels. Thank you, Umesh. And then we got our friend Ray Davis. Ray is a thank you, Ray, for tuning in to Meals on Wheels and Neighborly, Drive today. We're going to try to raise $2,000 this week for David. So I jump started by giving $1,000. So talk to your Ray's big. He does a lot of great works for UAW, and he has a lot of connections. So he will be a good guy for you to get volunteers. He's the UAW boss for the local area. Thank you, Ray and Carol, for tuning in. Let's see. So folks, we do have a challenge for our community today to get Ray a check for $2,000, and I already gave 1,000. So I'm hoping that you good folks will add another 1,000 to great program David has to run, the Neighborly program, and the adult care centers and hot meals. Let's get back to respite, David. You're talking about a great program like respite. So explain to us, how does that work?
Well, respite it's the same daycare model, but what it might be is to somebody who just needs maybe a day to themselves, a day to get their nails done or hair done, or maybe just a day without having to constantly attend to a loved one's needs. So we could, if somebody wanted to come to a day, you could contact us, come to the date. You could go on to neighborly.org. It's just our website, just neighborly.org. You could click on there. You could learn more about the daycare. You could find out about opportunities to volunteer there, but you could also find out more information about the daycare, how to reach out to us and contact us. We would have you come for a free day, and they could come and stay for an hour, 4 hours, 6 hours, a full day, whatever it might be, and just a place to warm up to it a little bit. Get the idea of what the service is. They'll quickly enjoy it. A lot of the men will go sit outside on the patio at a couple of our locations, and especially in Largo and South St. Pete, our other location in Palm Harbor. Beautiful facilities, wonderful staff, very caring staff. And again, for a lot of folks who are caring for their loved ones, their parents often, this is a great help. And if, again, as people are working themselves and having to leave work a lot of times and run to take care of a family member or a parent, I think that respite model could be a great assistance to people. And again, you could privately pay, back to the earlier question about payment for it. Again, so our federal funding will help pay for that. A lot of the Medicaid managed care programs accept we have a contract with them, and our services are only $11, just about $11 an hour. And so if you think about, what people pay for things right now, to have somebody, to pick up somebody for a full day, including transportation and lunch for $70 is to me, is a great, people pay more sometimes. Yeah, people pay more for a dog kennel, and that's sad, but they'll pay more for a day in a dog kennel, and we don't take care of our seniors.
I was reading, that average stay in a hospital is about, $5,000 that will pay for hundreds of days in outpatient respite for you guys.
One day would probably pay for a whole year. One day in a hospital would pay for a whole year daycare.
And which is sad because, if you think about it, the stay-at-home model should get more funding instead of, just limited funding you guys get, because it's, long run is good for the seniors. They are, more happy at their home than any day in a facility. And then more importantly, their mental health and physical health is fantastic when they have support. It's when they don't have support, they feel more lonely. that's when their health decline, and that's when they get falls. That's when they get more dementia or memory loss when they are lonely. So having a network where they can go to a center and meet friends or make friends. Studies have shown with patients with cognitive impairment, it's fantastic to keep their mental health in good shape and physical
Yeah.
health in good shape.
Absolutely. The studies have shown just the isolation. I forgot exactly what the study was, but the recent study that came out about the effects of isolation is something in the neighborhood of what 2 packs of cigarette smoking would do to them physically. And so that stress of isolation is
It's
really
huge.
deadly.
It's
Yep,
huge. And
absolutely.
we were just talking before the show of the effect on the families. Let's say if someone, mom or dad, God forbid, has dementia or memory impairment, and they don't want them to go to nursing home and they want to be the primary caregiver. It's just, emotionally and physically, it exhausts them to day after
Hmm.
day to, be there and not even able to get out of the house. And having a program like yours, if they only, let's say, do once a week, even they have to pay out of their own pocket $70, it will improve their mental and physical health if they can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they could do that. They could do it as little as once a week. I mean,
Right.
they could do, there's anything, whatever works for people. Again, we're all about trying to keep people in their homes
Right.
and trying to keep them in their communities too, just their neighborhoods. And,
Right.
that's where the name neighborly comes in. This is, people always talk about neighbors helping neighbors. This is what that is, whether you're volunteering to help somebody get a meal, or whether you volunteer to shovel somebody's driveway in the winter, not down here. But whatever it might be, I think that's where the community comes together as a whole, and that's what Neighborly only has 100 employees, but Neighborly has 1,000 volunteers, and so we really are much more a part of everybody's community, and so with 10 locations, and that's overall between daycare and dining sites. Yep,
that get you big access.
it does.
Let's talk about your third piece of your stool. We talked about the first leg, which is the Meals on Wheels, and then we talked about the Senior Care Center. Let's talk about the third leg, the transportation. So tell us a little bit more about, who qualifies and, what the cost is and how does it work?
Yeah. Well, again, so transportation, there's a number of things, whether it's picking people up to getting them to our daycare is one component. We pick them up around lunchtime to bring them to our senior cafes. A senior cafe is just it's kind of like, it's basically a little tiny restaurant that we bring 40, 50 people together, seniors that they live within, just a couple of miles of one of our locations. We'll pick them up and drive them there. And after lunch, we'll take them back. We'll pick people up to take them to medical appointments, so they could literally call us up and we'll get them. We'll get them to the appointment, wait for them, or come back for them if it's something a little bit longer. We get paid for that with some federal government dollars. We get paid for it from some state of Florida dollars, which is helpful. Again, if anybody's got a contact with PSTA or Florida Department of Transportation, that could help us. And so that funding lets us to provide more transportation. Our transportation has had a big hit with COVID, people just not wanting to ride together for fear of catching a virus. So we've been riding around with vans with just 2 or 3 people in them and really haven't got them back to fully operational. It's something we need to do. But we work with communities. So if there's a residential community that want to contract with us to take people to the mall or maybe to the movie theater or to a dinner theater, we make those arrangements with those communities. And then some of those things we just charge a flat fee, and that they divide it up by, the number of people on the bus. It's very inexpensive.
That's great. I know you guys have different programs throughout the years, like, for example, Shine counselors, during the Medicare open enrollment. Tell us about your, different programs you do different times of the year. I know you have March program, the meals, where you bring.
So the National Meals on Wheels does a March for Meals that they do. And that's when we actually contact community leaders. So whether it's county commissioners, senators, representatives, city commissioners or city council members, mayors, business leaders, to actually come and do a Meals on Wheels route. It might be 5 stops, it might be 10 stops, it might take you a whole hour, but it will give you a whole different look as to what Meals on Wheels really is and what it does for the senior. And that's a fabulous thing that we do in March. In September, we have a great connection with the St. Pete Yacht Club and Sailing Association. For 12 years now, they've done a fundraiser for us, a sailing regatta. And they've taken it on themselves and done it for us. And we've been the benefactor of that for 12 years, over $100,000. So anybody who's got an interest in sailing, that comes up in September. We do. In December, we take seniors everywhere in our buses at night to see the lights, for Christmas lights. They love that, and that's one of the more popular things that we try to do for the seniors, really to get them out and just to help them get engaged more in the community. So we're trying to always do something a little bit different. We always have fun things at the dining sites throughout the year. Heck, last year we dragged, not last year because it was COVID, the year before, we would bring barbecues out and cook hamburgers and hot dogs. They would have a picnic, and they thought that was the greatest thing, better than all the regular food they got. And to have a barbecued hamburger and hot dog and a ginger ale soda or something was a highlight for them. And when you see that, you see how excited they are to that, it makes you want to do more of it. And again, that's where I say I have the greatest job, because I get to see that and be a part of that all the time.
Now with COVID, you guys have to think out of the box. And I saw on your website, you have a virtual, cafes and virtual program. Tell us how you have to be flexible in COVID.
Yeah. Well, when COVID hit, we didn't have we talk about essential workers. We didn't have a choice. If we didn't come to work the next day, seniors went hungry. And with all the seniors that weren't going to grocery stores and weren't going out to eat, like I said, when our numbers went from 1,000 a day to 2,500 a day, we had to really step up. Our staff worked through all of it, missed nothing. Our volunteers, we got more when a time when people were going inside, the volunteers were coming back outside and coming to us. So we were so grateful to our volunteers to what they did for us. We brought the injections in. We actually had volunteer nurses that worked for us that were volunteering for Meals on Wheels delivery that were nurses, retired or semi-retired. And so they provided injections. So we were able to give our clients, our consumers were able to get injections, our volunteers were, and our staff were, and family members. So it was a great partnership we did with the Florida Department of Health. And we were really happy to be able to do that. And our volunteers were very happy we were able to do that for them. But we had to close things. Daycare had to close for a few months. Now we had to buy very expensive equipment to clean everything, clean our buses, disinfect our buses after every trip. So COVID presented quite a challenge to us. What was great, we were ready because we're a food service provider, we were very kind of conscientious when it comes to health and safety issues. And so we were already a long way towards a lot of the disinfecting and cleaning and sanitizing measures that were put in place because of COVID. We were already there and taking care of that. Again, with our food and with our daycares, we had to do that anyway. So it was a bit of a challenge, and it hit us hard financially because a lot of things, like I said, transportation and 50 vans, we still owed them, and we still had to pay insurance for them, and they were sitting empty. And again, everybody had a tough time, but again, some of that hit us hard. But we just kind of had to plow through and keep going.
That's great. I think everyone has to adapt. David,
absolutely.
For the
yep.
COVID, and and the seniors, they were one of the worst hit because they were all locked in and they were super vulnerable to COVID, and they couldn't see their grandkids, they couldn't see their kids. Yep. It's been a difficult time, and we are not out of the woods with the Delta strain, so everyone still has to use the precautions. But I think COVID, as you said, brought good opportunities to everyone as well to relook at how you can have safety and how you can have out of box thinking. And I see that you started doing some programs online for education and Zoom. And I think that's going to, like, for example, in healthcare, telehealth, for example, was in cold storage and being talked for a long time, decades. In fact, I go to different conferences and they'll say, oh, telehealth is coming, telehealth is coming, and the COVID came, and telehealth became a necessity. And hopefully it stays. Hopefully the insurance companies provide the funding, because I think for seniors, though they are a little bit challenged with the technology, but once they got used to using a smartphone, I think that's fantastic. They can do it from home, and for simple things, they don't need to come to the doctor's offices. So the COVID brought
Yeah.
that out of the way. Let's
Yeah,
talk
COVID.
about. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, COVID had some silver linings. I hate saying it because I know people died from it, and I understand a lot of hardship. But it took the people off the waiting list. It brought more money to the table. We actually got to do some really innovative partnerships with restaurants that were closed. We were able to have them reopen because we would get a couple of hundred meals from them to deliver. So there was a restaurant partnership we did. So we at one point I think we had 10 or 12 restaurants in Pinellas County that were paying their staff, and they were serving more meals to us to deliver than they were producing on a regular basis. So it kind of kept them in business. That was a plus. Being able to take people off the waiting list was a plus. We were able to get some funds for a number of different things, initiatives to help us with disinfecting and doing less touch and more, less hands-on basically, and more hands-off kind of things we were able to do with technology.
Oh yeah, with every, difficult time, David, comes, as you said, silver lining, and you gotta do the best you can. Let's talk about your need for volunteers, and what kind of different volunteer programs you have, and how our community of listeners can help you with the volunteers, and what kind of volunteers skill set you need. And I know they need drivers for sure, but what other volunteer skill set you can use?
Yeah. Well, again, the one we do the most of by far is meal delivery. So a volunteer to deliver meals, usually about an hour to an hour and a half of your time, any day of the week. It could be one day, it could be 5 days, you could do it for a few months. Number of different things we do. You could access those opportunities on the website as well. We've started doing a driver program where we're actually asking. Typically, it's an older adult themselves who has a little bit of time on their hands, but to help people get to appointments. So they might pick up Mr. Johnson at his house, take him to his doctor's appointment, and might wait for him for an hour if that's what it takes. If it's a few hours, we might have somebody else come back and pick them up. When I have to use a paid driver and a bus, it's very expensive for a 14-passenger bus to carry one person. So if we could, again, to have volunteers and to do it in vehicles, and it's also a little bit more kind of normal for folks just to ride in a car like that and not draw the attention of a bus. So we'd love to grow the driver program. So if folks are out there and of somebody who needs a purpose and something to do and has some free time, doing that. From an administrative standpoint, there's people I mentioned before, we had volunteers who are nurses who were able to give the shots for us and volunteered. That was a wonderful help, better than a donation would have been in that scenario. So that was great. We could use, when you're a nonprofit and you're kind of limited in certain skill sets. If folks have marketing backgrounds or if folks have technology backgrounds, they could volunteer to help us in a number of ways, even in administrative capacities. So those are possibilities. We'd like to be able to do more home repairs for seniors. We get some grants periodically. Some folks we have a couple of people annually who give us like $5,000 to do home repairs. If I could get a few volunteers, handy people, that $5,000 would buy lots of screens and light bulbs and doorknobs and maybe handrails in a bathroom and a number of things. Not major projects. We're not doing construction, but we'd love to be able to make sure somebody, again, with the idea of keeping folks in their home and improving the quality of their life. So we would, if you have an interest in something, we'd find something for you to do.
My 15-year-old son was thinking when I was talking to him that we're going to do Meals on Wheels. He looked at your website. Do you have something for teenage kids during summers?
We kind of struggle with, we want to do it and we continue to try to do that. What happens with kids is, because kids, it is their summer vacation, they're going to camp, they're doing a number of things, and they jump in and say, yep, I'm good this week, but I can't do this week, or this week. And then that's hard. That's a challenge for us to work around because, again, we don't have that luxury to kind of skip around that much. And it's almost harder to manage that. Now, and a lot of kids do ride with their parents.
Hmm.
And that's a nice thing too. I think it's just it's if parents are making the delivery and a child is with them, to grab the meal out of the cooler, or the hot meal, or the cool meal, or cold part, and help with all of that stuff. It makes it funner and faster for folks to do that together. Great bonding experience for a parent and a child.
And not only that, David, I think it's a good, you teach by example. So if your
Hmm.
parent is involved and, the kids learn, that it's good to do community service. So I think it's good to do it together
Absolutely.
with your kids. Um, so we covered your three legs, the big threes, the Meals on Wheels, your adult care centers, and then we talked about your transportation program. I know you have a lot of community partners. In fact, we have one of your partner, the Hope Village, the RCS.
Hmm.
Their CEO was on a program about a few months back. We did a fundraiser, and I know that's a great program they run for the food pantry. And then
Yeah.
Publix does good work with you. Anyone
Well,
else stands out in your mind, which supports you year after year?
well, I think one of the Publix is great, and Publix will, especially the one here, right here in Largo. The Publix there will give us before things get old. They donate monetarily, but also when things are getting to be like 2 days before sell by dates, they might bring us 100 loaves of bread or 100 pastries that we'll then take to our seniors that want them, and to our volunteers. So it goes to use and not to waste. That's a great partnership. We have a fabulous partnership with St. Vincent de Paul's. St. Vincent de Paul's has a very innovative kind of a homeless veteran transition program where they came to us last year and asked us to provide the meals to them. So we were delivering a Meals on Wheels type of meal, so actually through our restaurant partners, to veterans. And they would put a veteran up in a hotel. They would pay for that, but we would bring the meal to them because, again, the hotel didn't have cooking facilities. So that's a fabulous relationship with St. Vincent de Paul's, and we love doing that. We love working with the veterans. That's one of the great things. Pinellas County is a good partner. The county helps us. We have a good relationship with many of the county commissioners. They help us with a lot of things, from funding, which is always first and foremost, but they help us with some connections that they need that they make for us sometimes, and we have to get into a city or get into somebody that they could maybe pull a string or two. That's a great partnership with us. And
Yes,
yeah, Hope RCS is a great one. That's another good example with their food pantry that we work very closely with.
yeah. I think everyone needs to chip in. It's a great cause, especially with 83,000 senior target. You guys alone can't do it. You got to have all hands on deck to make those 83,000 seniors. And I think more and more I see the insurance companies, the Medicare Advantage plans will be strong partners. I know there are already some, but you see that it's a win-win. If you can keep a senior at home safe, they will consume less healthcare dollars long run.
Mm-hmm.
They will be more healthier, and they will not go to emergency room because they, let's say, run out of food, or they fell or something, because they are not getting stimulation. So I think it's to their advantage that they keep the seniors strong at home. So I
Yeah.
think,
And especially with the managed care programs, because that's their job, is to manage the cost.
right.
And when somebody gets discharged for hospital, if they're discharged to themselves at home alone, what are the chances of them following through on their medications, on their physical therapy maybe that they need to do, or their nutrition? And so, one of the things we say to them is, give us 2 weeks at a discharge, and we'll make sure for the first 2 weeks they've got a meal every day. We'll make sure somebody's checking on them every day. We'll make sure their medication is being taken. We could do those things very cost effectively for them. And we're already there delivering the meals anyway in those neighborhoods.
Anyway,
So it's
yeah.
not like it's common sense. But again, we don't always do what makes most sense. Not
But
we don't, but
I think you will see more and more, because you can only squeeze out so much from a system. After that, you got to look at a big fundamental issue, which is loneliness.
Yep.
And and as a society, we are very mobile. When we're young, it's good to be mobile, but when you are seniors, you can't do things which you could go to grocery store and hang out with your friends in a bar or something. You can't do anymore. So that's
Yep.
when you need to bring the community to them, and that's where I think Meals on Wheels and adult care center and transportation is critical, to have that happen.
Yep. That's very true.
Yeah. Anything we didn't discuss, David, we should discuss, which comes to your mind?
Well, I think, I want people to realize what neighborly is. Look for it. Look for our vans. Look for our dining sites. Again, when we know if there's 83,000 adults living alone, seniors living alone, and we're serving maybe 4 or 5,000 of them, that means there's 78,000 more that we're not getting to. And not that I could take all of them, but again, we have opportunities for folks, whether it's to receive our services or, again, their own volunteers sometimes benefit the most themselves from their volunteer experience because it gives them a purpose. It gives them something to do. And I think it's very important. And we hear from our volunteers how much it's rewarding to them. And I think it's, some of them call it even a bit of a ministry that they're providing, which is true. I think there's a bit of that that comes along with that.
Absolutely. I think you give something to somewhere to the community, it gets you back much more. It's like having a relationship, a fruitful relationship, which is both ways. So it's so
Mhm.
fulfilling. When you volunteer, as you said, it's a ministry. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's a beautiful gift if someone can give that to a senior to get a smile. Hey,
Yeah.
thank you.
And we've been here for 55 years, and with the population is getting older by the day, and as that happens, I think we're going to be here for another 55 years.
At least unless the hurricane overrun the temple.
Unless that happens. Yeah.
All right. But let's just talk about the donation piece. So, folks, we would like to have you guys open your hearts and purses for a fantastic program David runs for this county, the Meals on Wheels and the Senior Care Center and the transportation piece. We at Mahajan Medical Center, jump started by giving $1,000 to Meals on Wheels, and we will appreciate if you can match it by another $1,000. And we're going to run it for next week, and we're going to leave some iPads in our office. So we're going to pass it along. If you come to our office for any visits, you can donate right from the iPads, or we have a link at our Facebook page, so you can go there, or you can go to their website, the Neighborly website, which is
Neighborly.org.
yeah. Let me pull that up. This is how it looks, and if you go on this side, it says ways to give, um, and there is a donate button right up here on the top. So open your hearts and purses. Let's make the $2,000 target by end of the another week possible for David and our seniors in this county. So with that, we come to the end of this show. David, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure and honor to have you on our program.
Well, thank you, Dr. Mahajan. I appreciate it. I appreciate your support of our organization. It's been a long time that you've worked with us and supported our services. Our clients, our consumers, our seniors benefit greatly from your help, and hopefully your listeners as well. We'll always be there for them.
Thank you, David, for your
All right.
time.
Thank you very much.
You have a great evening. All right, folks, we come to the end of the show. Please do hit the donate button, and let's make $2,000 a reality for this drive, and we want to get there. And Al jumped in. Thank you, Al, for supporting Mahajan Medical Center. Do hit the donate button, and support Meals on Wheels, and help us reach our $2,000 target. Or you can volunteer there. I know you're very handy. You're the best carpenter I've seen, and David can use handy people. And Ray, will love to have your folks at UAW help David provide some volunteers as well. I know you're super network, so help David with getting some more volunteers to get the meals to the seniors. And I know your folks are seniors as well, so that'll be great to all pitch in to help each other. Thank you so much for watching. And with that, we come to the end of our programs. And you guys stay dry. I know the storm is threatening outside. And stay safe. And namaste.